Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to this week's weekly live immigration attorney chat here at Immigration for Couples. I see we have a lot of individuals joining us live, and so welcome. It's great to have you with us. And I know I see some familiar names and faces, so welcome back. If you are watching this on the replay, please do a hashtag replay and let me know, where are you at in your immigration journey and where are you at in the world? And for all of those of you who are watching live, some of you already know the drill. Ginger and Delaney, it's great to have you back. Please let me know. Oh, and we even have Emily in Paris. It's great to have you back too. And you have some great news to share. So we'll definitely get to that. But please let me know, for those of you who are joining us, where are you at in your immigration journey? Are you just starting out? Are you in the middle, or have you already completed the entire process? And where are you at in the world? And it looks like we have a lot of celebrations here today, and I think that's great. Thank you all for sharing. I'll pull those up here momentarily. So many people, when you're starting out in your immigration journey, it's normal, it's natural to feel overwhelmed and confused and anxious and stressed and all kinds of feelings all at once. That's very normal. The immigration process is a complex bureaucratic labyrinth, and it's so great to see other couples who have already completed their journey or have made a lot of progress in their journey, because it's always nice to see that light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you to those of you who are sharing your wins, and I will pull those up here as well. And you'll see at the bottom a free resource center, a link to our free resource center at Immigration for Couples. For those of you who are new to this weekly live chat, I host this on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. And my firm, Immigration for Couples, we are dedicated exclusively to helping couples across the nation and across the world in navigating the U.S. immigration process. We really do have clients all over the world. And we know how important it is for you to have resources and clarity and support in your immigration journey. And that's why I host this weekly chat every week at Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And that's why my team and I also created this free resource center at immigrationforcouples.com. The free resource center is very robust. We have charts that give an overview of all the different processes that are available to couples. I created a free webinar that has a lot of information about the different options that are available to couples, the eligibility requirements, how to prove your relationship, and not only survive, but thrive in your immigration journey. So you'll definitely want to check that out. The free resource center, again, is at immigrationforcouples.com. All right. I do have one topic lined up here today that I have been asked a lot recently. And so whenever I have a question that I see as being asked a lot and that a lot of people are curious, that I find that to be a really great topic to provide you all with education. And so I do want to share some of these wins that we have here. This is awesome. Let me go to Emily here. So Emily from Paris, you've joined us before. And when I had seen that you were in France, I just immediately thought of the Emily in Paris show. So I love having you come back. And I so love that your I-130 was approved. So let's everybody, yay! Congratulations to Emily. That's so awesome. And definitely, I will come back. I will pop back to your question after I go over this topic that I have here for today. But I definitely will get back to your question. I just saw your win. And I know a lot of people are waiting for their I-130 to be approved. And so, yes, and I know, Emily, you had been waiting for quite a while, and so many people have. And so I'm stoked for you. We're also happy for you. And I hope that this gives hope to others who are waiting on the I-130 petition. And yes, I have some individuals who are asking if they can ask a question. You're very welcome, Emily. I'm stoked for you. Anybody who has questions, please throw them in the comments. I am streaming this live on 4 different platforms, so I will answer the questions in the order that I receive them. I just saw that success and story there. And welcome, Ginger. Great to have you back. Hope you're having a wonderful day as well. And then Delaney, you had a celebration too. Your husband and you attended your adjustment of status interview, and the I-130 was approved the next day, but no word on the 485. So congratulations on that I-130 being approved. And I will pop back to your question right after Emily's, I promise. All right, so let me go into the topic that I have lined up for today that I've been asked this question over and over. Is the spouse visa easier to get approved than the K1 fiance visa? I've had individuals asking me this on Facebook and YouTube and in consultations and a lot of different places. And I thought, I've been asked multiple times in like a 2 week period. Let's talk about what is the truth. So is the spouse visa easier than the fiance visa? In large part, the spouse visa generally historically has had a higher approval rating. So the information that the government releases, it tends to show that the spouse visa has a statistically higher approval rating than the fiance visa. So I want to talk a little bit about why that is and why that doesn't mean you should just completely ignore the fiance visa and only file the spouse visa. So the reason that the spouse visa typically has a higher approval rating is that the fiance visa does have more elements or more required aspects that you're having to approve in that process. Please know that the spouse and the fiance visa do have the same standard when it comes to proving your relationship. That standard is that you have to show immigration that you have a bona fide relationship. So that means that you have a relationship based on love and not just to receive an immigration benefit. So that standard is the same. And that burden of proof is the same for both the spouse and the fiance visa. The piece that makes the fiance visa more complicated or have a typically a little bit lower approval rating than the spouse visa is that you're also having to prove that you physically met in the past 2 years. And you're also having to prove that you have this intention to marry each other within 90 days. So there are more aspects, there are more elements, there are more things that you have to prove with the fiance visa, which can make it a bit more difficult to get an approval. Not impossible, but a little more difficult than the spouse visa. The other thing about the fiance visa that causes immigration officers to scrutinize or to look more closely at the fiance visa applications is history and concerns with human trafficking. So that's why on that fiance visa application, if you haven't started it, maybe you have not seen that yet, but if you're going through the process, you've probably seen on that very first petition, there are questions about whether or not the U.S. citizen petitioner has petitioned other individuals and whether or not the U.S. petitioner has done prior fiance visa applications before. And so, and they're asking questions too about marriage brokers and how you met. And they're really going to look closely at your relationship history and the how you met, because immigration does have concerns with the safety of immigrants. And they want to make sure that that immigrant, that future immigrant spouse is protected. So that's another layer of complexity, if you will, with the fiance visa that causes immigration to look more closely at that fiance visa application and can result in higher denial rates on the fiance visa compared to the spouse visa. Now, with all of that being said, that doesn't mean you should not file a fiance visa. When I meet with couples for the first time, we talk about their relationship history and their goals, and I will give my advice on what I see is the best path forward. The fiance visa is a great option for couples who are looking for a faster path. Historically, the fiance visa is a faster option for couples to be together. Now, during COVID, wait times went up for everyone, and there was more than a year plus wait to be together. But in general, the fiance visa historically has been a much faster option for couples to be reunited. So when I meet with couples who have that as a goal, we really want to seriously consider the fiance visa. And other reasons that you would consider the fiance visa include maybe it's going to be a long time before you can actually be together again and to get married, because that's a requirement for the spouse visa. So if it's going to be many months before you can even get married to meet that requirement for the spouse visa, that's something to take into consideration as well if you're thinking about wanting a path that you can get started with as soon as possible, making the fiance visa likely a better option. And another reason that the fiance visa is a great option is for couples who do have children. So if the immigrant beneficiary has a child that is over 18 but still under 21, the fiance visa is a great option for those children to be able to come for the family unit to be able to come together. So that's that answers more than just, is the spouse visa easier to get approved than the fiance visa? But I would be remiss if I didn't share with you the benefits of both options. So yes, historically, the spouse visa has a higher approval rating, but there are a lot of important considerations and reasons that one might choose to file the fiance visa all the same. And so if you want to learn more about the fiance and spouse visa process, again, I really invite all of you to check out the free resource center at immigrationforcouples.com. All right, so let's dive into our questions here today. Daniel, COVID K1 wait time, visa wait times were fun. Oof, it was brutal. I do not want to go back. Nobody wants to go back to those COVID wait times. But the silver lining, I will say, maybe you'll bristle at me saying this, is that the couples who went through the immigration process during COVID, I just see such beautiful strength and resiliency that has been created individually and in those unions. So it's just really so powerful that couples who went through that process during COVID, you did something really difficult together side by side, and you came out the other side stronger than ever. So yes, they were brutal though. All right. Now, Emily, I said I was going to go back to your question because I celebrated your win. And so your question is, you said my income is insufficient, but with mine and my husband's, the beneficiary's assets, we have enough. However, my research has indicated that though we are allowed to use my husband's assets, the NVC may still send a request for evidence for a joint sponsor. Since we're using him, is it even worth it to provide assets? Would assets strengthen? And I think since you're on Facebook, it cut off your question, but I understand generally what you're asking. All right. So first and foremost, the National Visa Center is where you're going to submit all of your documentation, including that affidavit of support and all the financial documents. Please know that the National Visa Center, they do not make a decision on your case. They are not decision makers. They are not adjudicators. Their job in the process is to take in your documents, organize your documents. They have a very long checklist and they're checking off, yes, this person has their police background check. Yes, they have their I-864. But the National Visa Center does not get to make a decision on whether or not you have sufficient assets or whether or not you or your joint sponsor qualify. The National Visa Center's job is to get all of that organized, ensure that you have everything for the interview, and then they send your case on to a U.S. embassy or consulate abroad. And that U.S. embassy officer will determine whether or not they will accept your assets. So Emily, you are right. If you do not make enough income to be the sole sponsor on that affidavit of support, then assets is an option. It's a possibility. And so it is important to understand that it will depend on the immigration officer. It depends on the U.S. embassy or consulate as to whether or not they will accept those assets. Your assets do have to be 3 times the poverty guideline, and you have to have sufficient proof of that. Can you use the beneficiary's assets? Yes. Do most U.S. embassies and consulates, they don't look favorably. Most embassies and consulates do not look favorably on using a beneficiary's assets. They typically want to see you as the petitioner having those assets. But it is possible. We've done it for the couples we have represented. So that is a possibility. A joint sponsor typically, though, is the cleanest option and the most straightforward option when it comes to immigration and immigration officers and how they view the case. We've definitely been able to get clients' cases approved with assets alone. But if you have a joint sponsor, it's a really great option to just kind of bypass the asset calculation and rely on that joint sponsor, so long as he or she is eligible and makes enough on their own. So it sounds like the joint sponsor would be a great option for both of you. Do you still want to include the assets? You can. Typically, that's what we will do for our clients, is include assets and a joint sponsor. It's not required, and it really does depend on how much your assets are. But I'm glad you have a joint sponsor, and I'm really happy that you got that I-130 approval. So congratulations. I hope that helps answer your question. And for those of you who are wondering, How long did the I-130 process take for Emily in Paris? She said 15 months. So there you go. And that's what we're seeing as well. I've been telling all the clients that I'm meeting with, and my team and I were letting everybody know, hey, we are seeing about a 15-month wait. You're very welcome. I'm glad that that helped. I'm glad that that made sense. And then I did want to jump over to Delaney, who had another celebration. I promised I would go to your question next. You attended the interview. The I-130 is approved, but no word on the 485. So, and I'm guessing by earlier in the year, you mean January of this year. So in the past 2 weeks, I'm guessing that's what you mean. So the I-130, the petition, and then the I-485, the adjustment of status for the green card, those are sent together for those who are eligible for adjustment of status in the US. And then you would have an interview. Sometimes that interview is waived. And it is common that the I-130 could be approved and the I-485, an immigration officer still needs to review and look at that application separately. How long you should expect to wait? I wish I could give you an exact number. But unfortunately, it really just does depend on the specifics of your case and your immigration officer who's assigned to that case. Remembering that the immigration officer who interviewed you does have a supervisor that has to sign off. So typically, if the I-485 is being held back for additional review, sometimes they're just doing background checks. Sometimes they're confirming eligibility. Sometimes those checks can take many months. Sometimes it's a matter of a few weeks, but it will just depend. Hopefully you get a decision soon, and you're wanting to know, is there any additional evidence or steps to strengthen your case? So without seeing your entire application and knowing your immigration relationship history, I wouldn't be able to give you, individualized, customized advice in the context of this live. So it sounds like it's just a waiting game for you. If your I-130 has been approved, if you have an immigration attorney, definitely speak with him or her. If you were my client and I had your whole application and knew your immigration history, I could give you way better insight on what is likely happening and how long. But that's good news that you have the I-130 approved, and hopefully you'll get a decision on that 485 soon. And Delaney, you said you are watching from Colorado, so it's great to have you. All right. So let me go back to my YouTube questions. I'm trying to answer them. Like I said, I'm getting questions from a lot of different places all at once. And so I'm going to answer them in the order that I receive them here. All right. And how is this for everyone? Are you all benefiting from this information? Since I can't, hear from you, if you can let me know in the comments, or if you can give me a thumbs up, that would be awesome. Just so I know that this is helpful for all of you. So Shabana, you're asking about your I-130. You're filing that online. Congratulations. That's awesome. You're getting started in your journey. And you're wanting to know, what you should write for your name. So for your application, you do need to list your legal name. So that is the name that would appear on your passport and birth certificate. So whatever that first, middle, and last name is on your identity document, that's exactly what you should be putting on your immigration application. There is a section on the forms that asks for nicknames and other names used. And that's where, if you had a name that wasn't on your legal documents that you've used, that you'd put it there. All right. So Terry, yay, congratulations. You submitted everything to the National Visa Center and that's been approved. So now you're in the waiting game for an interview. And how long? How long for the interview? So for our clients that have interviews in Morocco specifically, you're looking at a solid 12-month wait, at least 12 months. And then you're asking how long after that. It really depends on how the interview goes. Sometimes the immigration officer is able to approve that person at their actual interview at the U.S. Embassy or consular interview. And then typically that visa is printed within a matter of a week or two. But if the case does need to be held back for additional review or documentation, then it can take sometimes months to get a decision. Hopefully yours falls in the former, where they're able to decide that day at the interview. But best of luck to you. Hoping you get an interview soon. All right. So the next question from Damien, you are saying that you can't be added to a lease because you don't have a social security number. And let's see. Oh, okay. And then you're basically saying you can't be added to any of the bills without a social security number. So yeah, that's always a difficult spot for individuals who are specifically going through that adjustment of status process in the US, where if you're in the US and you don't currently have work authorization, you don't have a social security number, but you are married to a US citizen and you have joined your lives together, it does get a little touch and go when you don't have that social security number, because it is needed for things like lease and bank account and joint bills. And then immigration is wanting that for your immigration case. So there are other ways, that you can show that you're living together. Maybe you have bills, even though they don't have both names. Maybe you do have bills, like a phone bill or something that does show your name and address. That's, a possibility. And then relying on other categories of evidence. So, letters of support from friends and family and things like that. When you are doing an adjustment of status case, if you don't have proof that you're living together, if you don't have that commingling of financial evidence, that puts you in a position, in a not great position when you're filing your application, because when you file that adjustment application, that's immigration's first impression of your relationship. And so it's very, very important that you have strong evidence for that first impression. And so, Damien, I would encourage you to check out the free resource center, immigrationforcouples.com, and that link is below. And I do have a free relationship evidence guide where I talk about what relationship evidence immigration looks for and how immigration officers review that application and what you should be aware of. And of course, Damien, if you and your spouse would like to get on and this goes for everyone, if you'd like to get on a private call with me, I would be happy to speak with you one-on-one in a Zoom call or on a phone call, and we can talk about your relationship and your relationship history and possible evidence that could be used. And so you can book that appointment on that same website, immigrationforcouples.com, or using that phone number, 317-247-5040, and my team would be happy to get you scheduled with me. All right, and let's see who is next. So Annette, out of curiosity, are there any patterns in slow versus fast times of year for submitting I-129F? Wondering if holidays affect anything. I love the curiosity. That's a really good question. So I have not necessarily seen slower or faster times of year for that petition specifically. When we're talking about interview scheduling at U.S. embassies or consulates abroad, there are times where there are less interviews available for spouse and fiance visa when we're like in student visa season and things of that nature. But in terms of submitting the I-129F petition, I haven't necessarily seen like slower or faster times. Do holidays affect things? Sure. I mean, the government offices are closed certain days. And then of course, individuals, officers are taking time off. If you're asking from a place of should you submit it a certain time of year? No. The advice is always, if you and your fiance or you and your spouse know that you're ready to start your immigration journey, getting it filed as soon as possible, getting in that line as soon as possible is key. Of course, filing a strong application too. You don't want to just quickly file something and not have it be a strong application. But it's an interesting question. I will say that immigration wait times are very fluid. They're always changing, and it's a little bit like riding a roller coaster. Wait times go up and then they go down and up and down. So you just get on that roller coaster as soon as you can and get in that line as soon as you can. And you're very welcome. It's my pleasure. All right. And then let me check here on the questions I have in the queue. So I have someone here on Instagram who is asking or is letting us know, my wife, it's Manuela Vasquez. My wife is waiting for her embassy interview in February, but has to be delayed due to further medical results for a diagnosis that she has been cleared for by her primary doctor. This is frustrating. Yes. So unfortunately, yes, when you go to the medical exam, sometimes they can require additional testing, and sometimes that testing can take weeks for the results to come back before that medical exam can be finalized, and that can hold up a decision. But hopefully, I know it's frustrating, but hopefully you get those medical results soon. And the good news is you're getting closer to the finish line. All right. So, Manya, it's great to have you. Good morning to you as well. How long will it take to get an I-130 approved for the spouse visa? My husband filed an I-130 in March. So Emily had let us know that hers took about 15 months, and Emily is right. That's what we're seeing right now for the I-130 petition, that it is taking about 15 months for that petition to get a decision. And it's important to understand as well that that is for U.S. citizens petitioning for their spouse for the I-130. Lawful permanent residents can also petition for their spouse, and that wait time is going to be longer because they fall into a category of what they call non-immediate relatives that are subject to annual visa allotments. And so if you're a lawful permanent resident petitioning for your spouse, it can take, it will take much longer than the standard I-130 filed by a U.S. citizen. So I just wanted to clarify that. All right. So good morning from South Africa and good morning from the US. We've been engaged from last year, March, and going to be meeting for the third time this month. We're planning on applying when he gets back home. That's great. That's really great. So congratulations on your engagement and getting started on your immigration journey. I really encourage you to check out that free resource center from my firm, immigrationforcouples.com. And I'm definitely happy to speak with both of you if you are needing customized legal guidance. All right. So you're asking about the I-864. So that's the affidavit of support. For those of you who aren't aware, part of the marriage green card process involves an affidavit of support. It's required where the petitioner has to provide their financial information and show that they can financially provide for the beneficiary. So you applied as a sponsor for your husband. USCIS could not determine I qualified based on documents submitted. I have mostly 1099 income, but also W-2. I need help. You need help. I qualify. I'm guessing you're saying that you don't have a co-sponsor, a joint sponsor available. So, okay. So basically you're asking about using assets like Emily was talking about earlier. So it is possible to use assets if you do not have enough income through 1099 and W-2. We are entering a new tax year here, so everybody will be filing their 2024 tax returns, and that is the amount that immigration is going to be looking at. So, that'll be the first place to start, and then definitely looking at assets. So I'm not sure if you received a request for evidence or a notice of intent to deny for your financial documentation. This is something where I would need to meet with you in private one-on-one during a Zoom call, and we could talk about your income information and options to use assets. Possibly we could still use your income, but we can definitely talk about what that asset calculation would look like and the best way forward. So you're welcome to schedule that appointment at immigrationforcouples.com, and I'd be happy to speak with you in private about how much you make and what your assets are, and we can talk about setting a strategy and how we can help you. All right. And good morning to you, Lisa. All right. And so then I have someone asking, is it difficult to begin a process by marriage if the other person entered without documents? So, so I know you're asking in Spanish. So hopefully this will be clear. So basically you're asking, is there an option? So if a person entered the United States without documents and they are currently here in the US, and if they're married to a US citizen, there are options available for something called a provisional waiver to ask for forgiveness for that entry into the United States and time in the US without documents. It does depend on a lot of different factors whether or not a person would be eligible for this waiver. The waiver, you have to show that your US citizen or lawful permanent resident spouse would suffer extreme hardship if you're not allowed to stay. So what is extreme hardship? That means that it's suffering beyond, the mere separation of having to live apart, and it's suffering beyond any kind of financial hardship. Typically, there is some kind of medical issue or trauma in the past of that US citizen or lawful permanent resident. And we can prove that through a legal argument and evidence through a waiver. So is it a difficult process? Yes, it is a more complicated process. It does require a waiver of forgiveness. It is a much longer process, but the good news is there can still be options. And so if you are in this situation and you're wanting to get started and wanting more information, this is definitely something I could speak with you about in private. y puedo hablar con ustedes en español si prefieren durante la consulta, pero espero que esta información ah, ayudaran a ustedes a entender que básicamente existe una opción a través de un perdón provisional. Así se dice para pedir perdón por esa entrada sin documentos. Okay. All right. And how long will it take to get? Oh, this was, yeah, I already answered that question. The I-130 approval is taking about 15 months. And I am at time. I'm going to try to do a couple more questions if I can. Okay. So we have someone asking on LinkedIn, can a new green card holder file an adjustment of status for their 11-year-old son who has a tourist visa? So the categories of individuals who can petition for their family members, as a lawful permanent resident, you can petition for certain family members, including children. However, the adjustment of status gets a little bit more tricky because adjustment of status does require that you are an immediate relative. So an immediate relative would be relatives of a U.S. citizen, so like a spouse or minor children of a U.S. citizen. So adjustment of status does get a bit more tricky. There can still be options for processing abroad through something called consular processing. And that's something we can talk about again. That's something where we're going to need a consultation. But yes, it is possible to still petition a child as a green card holder. However, the adjustment of status piece might not be the best option. Typically, it's not, just because a green card holder has more limited options for going through that process with their children. But an option still does exist, and we can definitely talk about that if that is your situation and you're wanting to talk about that in more detail in private. I would definitely be happy to speak with you, and you can call to schedule at the link below or schedule at immigrationforcouples.com. Okay, so is it worth applying for citizenship when you're I-130, when you file an I-130 based on your green card? Sometimes it is, because as I had said earlier, the wait times for relatives of green card holders is much longer because you're subject to visa allotments. The wait times for U.S. citizens, there isn't a visa allotment. So that means that there's not a set amount of visas that are available. You still have a wait time, but for U.S. citizens, it's much faster. So there are definitely situations where, for our clients, as soon as you're eligible, we would file for citizenship and then, update your petition for your relative to get things moving forward. And also, it's important to understand that U.S. citizenship has a lot of benefits. And so applying for U.S. citizenship is definitely worth it. You'll be able to vote. You'll be eligible for government benefits at retirement. You can apply for federal jobs. The list goes on. You aren't restricted to having to live a certain amount of time in the U.S. and then being able to petition, family members. So there's a lot of benefits to U.S. citizenship, as well as helping to make that I-130 process faster. All right, you're very welcome for the live sessions. The NVC approved your expedite request. That's great. Oh yes, I remember you had let us know that last live. So congratulations. And then you said they received it on December 3rd. Should you contact the NVC or the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad to schedule the appointment? It's been 6 weeks. And yes, and so as I had let you know on our last live event, definitely reaching out to both the NVC and the embassy would be a great start to get a status on where that scheduling is at. But congratulations on that expedite being approved. Yeah, can someone on my team look at that your financial documents? So yes, in the context of you being a client, I would be looking at your financial documents and we would make a strategy. So you are welcome to schedule a consultation with me and we can talk about your immigration case, and I can recommend a strategy for the process, for your process based on the information you provide. Because it is private in nature, we would have to have a consultation. So you can schedule that at that link below, immigrationforcouples.com. All right, I'm going to do one more question. Goodness, there's so many. I really wish I could get to all of them. I'm just looking. I do look at all of your questions after the live, and that's where I get my content to make videos. There you are, Jose. I wondered if you were here today. I know you were the other person who was waiting on their I-130 approval. I don't know if you saw that Emily received her approval on her I-130. But I know both of you have been coming for a while and letting us know you've been waiting. And so she said that she got hers in 15 months, and that's really what we're seeing. Most clients, most couples are getting their decision in about 15 months. So hopefully it comes for you soon. Maria, you are in the Bahamas. That is awesome. I hope you're having a lovely time. All right, we have another success story here. Thank you for all your information and resources. You're very welcome. Just sharing that your fiance, that you mailed your petition on Saturday. Oh, that's awesome. And you used all of our guides. I'm really happy to hear that. That warms my heart. Congratulations on getting that filed and best of luck. Yes, let the wait begin. All right. I'm going to see if I can grab one more question. All right. Can I share a little bit more about my experience with the interview process in Morocco? Any recommendations to get the interview faster? What is the typical timeline you see once USCIS approves the I-129F petition, so that fiance visa petition? So the wait times are long to get an interview, as I had said earlier, about a year. And in terms of speeding things up, the immigration process is a bureaucratic process. It does take a long time. There are things that you can do to speed up the process in terms of what we call pro-action here at our office. We're really big on pro-action. That means working ahead, having things ready in advance for the next steps. So when that approval comes through, you're ready to hit the ground running and keep things moving. So that's definitely something you can do, is being prepared and proactive and having those documents ready ahead of time. And there are some situations where an expedite is a possibility for serious, humanitarian reasons, medical issues, things of that nature. We have had some success with expedite requests. Typically, U.S. embassies and consulates do not like to approve those, but that is a possibility if you have something, very serious. But hopefully that helps. All right. Well, it was great to see. Everyone. You're welcome so much, Jose. You're welcome, everyone. Take care to you as well, Maria. Have a great week, everyone. It was good to be with all of you. I will be here for next week, Tuesday. I was just looking at some of the Instagram comments. You're very welcome, Manuela. It was my pleasure. So I will see all of you next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. I will be back answering questions live. Best of luck with your immigration journey. If you are watching this on the replay, again, please do a hashtag replay. Let us know where you're at in your journey and what your questions are. And please do check out our free resource center at immigrationforcouples.com. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.